Hi, how to carry climate change grief without breaking. I know this sounds tough, and it is tough. It really is tough, but it's possible. And I know it's possible because there's so many different ways that I've tried and so many different people I've talked to and so many different ways for you to reach out and get the help you need if you're willing to go through that. You need a community. You need a lot of groups. You need to find the ones that make the most difference for you. You really need to connect with anybody you might have close to you, physically close to where you are, besides the communities online. My communities are almost all online because even though all the people around me believe in climate change and are of a different culture, a culture that's vastly more accepting of what comes in life. And we can learn a lot from them. That's another thing you can do. But everyone around me is a subsistence farmer here in Ecuador, and they all know that now they can plant corn 365 days a year because there's no gas. You just don't know what's going to happen. There used to be only 2 seasons, wet and dry. It's not true anymore. Okay, so what can you do to overcome? First, you got to think about what things help you when you're really feeling anxious. Now I'm going to be telling you about some other ways to work, but we're talking about just you at home by yourself. Or by yourself only because the rest of your family doesn't believe in climate change. You're still by yourself in your predicament. For me, it's crocheting. I have tried all kinds of things, but that's something that goes all the way back to my early years, and it works. And I have discovered that by blending in the same way that I blended what job I had to pick. I picked, because I had a child so early, I had to pick working in restaurants as a way to be able to take care of my child. And it worked because I loved serving people. I really wanted to be a lawyer. My dream was to go into the military where my family had all come from and be a JAG lawyer so that I could help people in the military who've been accused of something that I, in my deepest of hearts, believe they probably had no control over because of the positions they're put in by the jobs that were assigned in the military. Long story, but it's the same kind of thing that we're talking about now. Exactly the same kind of thing. You have got to get to know you in the position you are in right now. So often I go to meetings, deepadaptation.org. Deep Adaptation was started by Jim Bendell, Bendell. His first name is Jem. He wrote a paper called Deep Adaptation, and that started the group. Everybody in the group, except the top lead person who gets a subsistence salary, everybody else is a volunteer. Okay, so the point is that people come into the group immediately after reading his paper, and they're usually crying, sobbing, or going, is this really true? Can this possibly be true? I mean, it depends on how the people take that kind of information that makes the difference in how they react. And we're used to it. All of us who are in the group, we're used to it. Same way with Collapse Club, COLLAPSE Club. Collapse Club not only takes in the problems with climate, but with all the other things that are connected to what is occurring now in our world. So try either one of those. When you get into deep adaptation, there's lots of different areas that you can go and look at different meetings at different times of the day and different focuses on the meetings. Again, everybody's a volunteer. The meeting I go to is a meeting for women, older women, as defined by themselves. And so we have older women who are in their 90s, and we have older women who are in their 30s. It just means that they feel mature and they want to get together with other mature women to discuss how, as mature women, we are to deal with our climate change grief. And it weeks every week. A lot of them meet once a month. Some meet every 2 weeks. This one meets every week, and it is phenomenally helpful to me. The other one I go to is one used to be called Deep Relating. That one is in Australia, but the one I go to is similar to the Deep Relating, but we don't have a facilitator, and usually they have a trained facilitator for some of them. There's also Earth Listening. Oh, I love the Earth Listening group, but it comes at a time that I can't squeeze in. But Earth Listening also has a website, and the person who runs it has been there for years and has devoted, I think, 4 or 5 years of her life to this group. And she's just, she's so good. She is so good. But the concept is you get others to help you, like AA. Okay. Now, if you have turned to things that have caused a dependency because of your fear of climate change, then you could also try LifeRing, LifeRing.org, which is also an all-volunteer group, also online, but it has about 100 different meetings you can go to. Most days except between midnight and 4. Most of the meetings are for drug and alcohol. I run 2 meetings on trauma. I help out with one other meeting, and there are 2 more on trauma. Trauma is what's called a co-occurring disorder. Also, another thing people do with the pain of something like climate change is they tend to turn to things like overeating, gambling, isolation. There's just so many different things, PTSD symptoms, overspending, use of prescription drugs in the incorrect manner. But drugs and alcohol are the most common, of course. But the meetings still give you that sense of community, that sense of understanding, that sense of feeling vulnerable, feeling helpless, feeling like you don't have any direction to turn. You can also look at groups like Nature Bats Last, or Guy, G-U-Y, McPherson, M-C-P-H-E-R-S-O-N, McPherson. Guy McPherson runs Nature Bats Last and has for years, and he has, gosh, I've been with him close to 20 years. I've followed him because he was a professor at the University of Arizona, and he was in forestry, but his focus now has been on peer-reviewed papers by academics who have determined different aspects of climate change. And the point is, his focus a great deal has been on helping people to deal with it. Because at first, many people approached him with the concept of taking their own lives. And that's something, of course, we talk about in the trauma groups too. But the point is talking to other people. And the reason I give you the ones online is because typically it's hard to find someone else to talk to in person. I mean, if I was fluent in Spanish, I could talk to my neighbors about climate change on a very basic level, because most of them have less education than I have, so they don't want to communicate in a way that is real personal. And besides, the culture of Latin America is vastly more polite, just a polite. They wouldn't say, "Oh, blistering headache." They would say, "I really enjoyed your company, but I need to rest now." They wouldn't say why. That's too personal. They're much more polite in their conversations. Okay, but they do understand climate change. So I see the situation. But you're going to have the same situation, I suspect, in any place you go. You're going to have, the only way you're going to get around that is to go to a place that has already experienced climate change and is aware of it. You know, if you went into Huntsville or Asheville or any of those areas where they know what has happened to them was climate change, or to Texas, to the Mystic Camp, where they had the huge flood on July 3rd of 2025 that they know should have not occurred because nothing like that had happened and to that extent. But it had happened before, but because we didn't have the protections and the people on call to watch out, I believe it was from FEMA. I think that's what is the section that should have been there. We just didn't know about it. And so people were devastated. They never expected to be dealing with such a mess. But the point is, the way to cope. Let's talk first about as yourself. As yourself, think about what has calmed you in the past, and then think about new ways. Because the idea is to make sure you're not having this repetitive thought patterns going on. But you should also have realistic logic going on. This is really difficult to separate, but I can tell you after years of trying, it's working out much better for me. And years of listening to Dr. McPherson tell me what he thinks. In the first place, if you have a choice, do what you love. I don't care what's going on. If you have a choice, if it's a choice between mopping the living room floor or going out to lunch with a friend, go out to lunch with a friend. Because if indeed our time is limited, it is so important to do things that help your mind not realize what's going on. And having lunch with a friend might do that. It might not. It might be that your friend is there to ask you if you think anything about climate change, and you're going to be shocked. You might fall over on the floor and faint, because that just doesn't happen to most people. A few people, and it's been such a special surprise. In fact, it's happened to people, especially in California, of course, because California looks at life a little differently, and they've been faced with the faults, the concept of the faults coming apart at any time in earthquakes. And so that makes a difference in how their general outlook is. But I do know some people who say that when someone says, "How you doing?" say, "Well, I'm getting a little more concerned about climate change than I had been," or something like that. And it opens the door in case people want to talk about it. And he's discovered that it has given him more opportunity to connect with people. But in general, that's not the case. In general, people, it's just too big to think about. It's too invasive to push aside. And yet, I'm telling you, you need to push it aside. So it's a complicated situation that you're going to have to deal with. But it's so much easier if you have other people to talk to. Whether it's climate change or political upheaval or economic collapse or collapse of currency or leadership challenges, whatever happens to be going on with you, you've got to find ways to calm down. Maybe you want to take up the guitar. Maybe you want to learn to play the flute. Maybe you want to take up sewing something for yourself. Maybe you want to make curtains for the kitchen. Maybe you want to repaint the dining room. Maybe you want to take your kid to the zoo. Maybe you want to take your grandkid to a carnival. Whatever you can find. Maybe you want to start meditating. Maybe you want to go to the gym. Find something that seems to separate your repetitive mind from thinking about what could happen, because so many of the predictions have been overrun incredibly fast. Predictions on how long it takes the ice to melt, or how long before all of us have no place to live. I mean, when I first heard about climate change, it was 2100. They suspected we wouldn't see any kind of indications until 2100. Well, we've already been seeing indications for the last 10, 15 years. It's just become more evident recently. And more scientists are saying that it will become faster. I mean, we just don't know. And that's the big point. We just don't know. And until we have some definitive answers, until you're living on an island and you see that it's about to take the foundation from under your house, you really aren't going to know. And one of the things that bothers me the most is, are we getting adequate information from general news feeds? I don't think so. I think a lot of what's going on is being hidden from us. And that causes just that much more grief, because we're trying to find people who are going to be honest with us. And it's difficult. It's really difficult. There are just so many reasons that government influenced newspapers, news outlets, whatever kind of reporting they would do, have been encouraged to not be specific, or to hide something, or to just not report on it completely at all, or hide something from something you're reporting on. I mean, there's just so many factors at this point. It's really frightening. But the point is, if you get together with others, if you find other distractions, if you find things that you enjoy, if you can locate things that make you calmer, any of those options are going to make such a big difference. Because, and things that cause you joy, real joy, and laughing. Oh gosh, laughing is so good. Do whatever you have to do, no matter how silly people think you are. Nurture your inner child. I do a lot of comments in these videos about nurturing your inner child. Maybe you want to take up coloring, or playing with a jack-in-the-box, whatever it takes. Music, children's music, whatever. Just do something that makes it so much easier. And if you want to know about what motivates me, I have run a nonprofit for the last 34 years. I have information down in here about Summerland -artists, ARTISTS Summerland volunteer artists, I'm sorry, and they're hyphen between each of the words except the last one, .org. We also have a /about. It can tell you what kinds of things we've done the last 34 years. That legacy gives us some peace. It really does. Gives us some peace. But what I'm showing you are some pieces of art that are designed to remind you about taking care of the earth at this time, that how important it is to keep the earth as safe as we can, do what we can, even if it's a little bit. If we all do a little bit, it may help with what's happening with climate. Whatever the work you choose, whatever the path you choose, finds a path that's peaceful, that gives you some calm, some reassurance, and some friends. You need to have somebody to talk to, because those who have it are so relieved. It's so amazing to see how relieved people are when they finally find either Collapse Club or Deep Adaptation, or one of the small groups inside of Deep Adaptation, in different ways to be able to talk to people. It really, really makes a difference in how your outlook is and how much calmer you are. And of course, all the people around you. So often your family will not will not agree with what you're thinking, and that's of course their choice. They if that's how they want to approach it. But for those of us who believe in science and believe that we're being told the truth by the scientists, we know there's just really no other option than to adapt, modify our lives to fit the challenge. So if you want to know more about the nonprofit, if you want to see something to help you remember to take care of the earth, look down. And if you want to hear more, let's look for some more of my videos. I'm posting one almost every day, so look. And thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking care of the earth.